Hello, and welcome to another episode of Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman. I am so happy to have you back. Shout out to all my OGs and to my newcomers, those in the UK, Germany, Sweden. We have some folks listening in from Canada. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for trusting me to give you information that is not only good for you to hear, but also for you to use. Now, before I introduce our guest for this episode, because it is not just me talking to you, we have a guest. I want to remind you to join the newsletter. That is where you are going to get exclusive information about events that I may have going on, challenges. That is where I really give you the tea and continue the conversation that we have on these here episodes. Okay, so make sure you join in the show notes. Also, if you just want to see my beautiful face, I am uploading videos and dipping my toe in the water of YouTube. So head on over there, subscribe, and again, it's another place to keep the conversation going. And I'm giving you all the resources I possibly can for you to be able to not just survive, not just thrive, but live with pleasure as the forefront of your life. Okay, so follow me in those places, please. Thank you. Now, I absolutely adore the guest that came and spoke with us today about pleasure and grief. When everything went down with the election and I saw the collective kind of that was going on in our community, especially with our Black women, I said, oh, I need to find a way to have a conversation about pleasure and grief, because 9 times out of 10, which you will hear me talk about in the episode, there is this idea that the two cannot exist together. And I need you to understand that that is not a true statement. So make sure that you are sitting back, whatever you need to be able to take your notes. Maybe you need to go listen to this episode again. Whatever it is that you need to do to help you get through whatever is going to be thrown at us these next couple years, I want you to do it, okay? So I want to introduce you to Robin Denise, MPH, is an author, spiritual guide, grief and pleasure coach, Reiki master, artist, and more. As a grief and pleasure coach, they use pleasure to transmute grief into joy, liberation, and purpose so that we can live in our fullness. I really hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. So, thank you so much for joining me, Robin. I am really excited for this conversation, and I think my listeners very much are excited for this conversation about pleasure and grief, because I think people think pleasure or grief. Like, I cannot be happy, I cannot have peace, I cannot have a sense of joy if I'm grieving. It's one or the other. So before we get into the both and, I would like to know a little bit more of how you got deeper into pleasure and grief.
Ooh, that's a yummy question. Thank you. Um, I also at one time thought I actually didn't even acknowledge grief. And I barely acknowledged
Mm.
pleasure when I was younger. And so it happened when my mother died when I was 25. And I was so heavy because I grew up in a single parent household. So when she died, it was like my whole world just fell under me. Um, but in her death, I started to question life. I started to question religion. I started to question things that I was taught growing up. I started to question everything. And those questions led me down a lane of spirituality, energy, sexuality, and sensuality. And so as I took that journey, I really started to find myself healing. As I started doing more tantra work, I was on the yoga trapeze. I became a yoga trapeze instructor. And then I was like, more tantra. Where else can I find tantra? And then I went and got sex coaching and sexology and erotic embodiment touch. And as I'm going through that, I'm seeing the grief from my mother and all these other people that have died. And then I start to grieve old versions of myself who no longer
Mm.
believe who I was when I grew up, who no longer believes in certain types of religion, who believes in I am God and you are God and there is and everything is God. It's like I see how excited I am. I like I just went into I saw myself healing those griefs the more I leaned into my pleasure and my ability to feel. And when I recognized it, I was like, oh, everyone must know that it doesn't have to hurt like this.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it hurts, as you breathe through it, you see the light, and the light is pleasure and it carries you through.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Okay. So, what are some of the questions you asked yourself after your mother was no longer here that led to all of these hundreds of doors that happen from grief?
Yeah. So I was a Seventh-day Adventist growing up. And one of the things that I was taught was that when a person dies, their body goes back to dust and their soul kind of just dissipates and they're sleeping until God comes back and rises them up. And for me, the question was, oh, and then there's Judgment Day. And then with Judgment Day, you either are judged by the sins that you had on some day. And if you didn't repent for it, then there's a whole situation. I just kept asking myself, God, if you love me like your child, like I am a piece of you, I don't understand why you would make me decide to sleep until you returned. How, Sway?
Mm.
I don't understand why forgiveness has is not blanketed and that's a part of unconditional love. And even if I did not ask for forgiveness, you would forgive me. That's what my mom did.
Mm-hmm.
She loved me no matter what I did. There might have been a consequence, but there wasn't a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
There was a clear like, I'm not punishing you. This is a consequence because of XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
But everything was showing me in religion that God, this father, punishes me. But my mother, who is not supposed to be as big and powerful as God is, doesn't do that to me, didn't do that to me. So
Mm-hmm.
how, Sway? And the more I asked that question, the more I just kept feeling my mother's spirit. The
Mm-hmm.
more I kept tapping into, no, I love you. I want you to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know that you are me. I am you. We are one. You have the power to be. And so as I like listened to that and leaned to that and saw how I started looking younger, my flexibility was increasing. Like I was taking better care of myself because I was recognizing in honoring me in the fullness of me and loving me, I am then pouring back into the world because
Mm-hmm.
everyone is one.
Mm.
And so that's when pleasure started to show up like, well, how do I love me more? How do I honor me knowing that I am honoring the next person? How? Oh, I need to be pouring in.
Oh
Where's the
yeah.
pleasure? Where's the joy?
Yeah.
Where's the thing that makes me go, oh, I love my buddy? Where's that? So that's how that came. That's a
I
great
love
question.
that.
Thank you.
S- So, what did your brain do when you realize that pleasure and grief can coincide side by side?
It's really what did my ego do?
Oh, okay. Okay. What did the ego do?
It's the ego, it's the spiritual manifestation of our brain.
Mm-hmm.
So my ego freaked out.
I can imagine.
Freaked the fuck out. Was like, this goes against everything we know.
Mm-hmm.
This is big change. What are you doing? Your body doesn't know what to do. I know what to do. I tell your body what to do. All
Right.
that big freak out. Big freak out. And the thing that helped my brain, thus my ego, relax was the science behind it.
Mhm.
Like I have the saying, for science, which means if I got a theory, I have to test the theory for science, just so that my analytical mind can connect to it and say, oh, I get it. Logically, this makes sense.
Yes. Mhm.
And then I went down the science route. All right, what is my body is capable of pleasure?
Mhm.
That means I have so many nerve endings. My clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings at the tip of that thing, more
Mhm.
than the tip of a penis. So my body was created to feel pleasure.
Mhm.
It is my birthright. And I'm not enjoying this birthright. Why?
Mm.
Why am I not pouring in to the science of my body? For what? This is how I was created.
Right.
And by not doing so, I'm actually kind of putting myself in a place of hell because I'm
Okay.
restricting and taking away
Mhm.
what is mine by my own choice. That don't make sense.
Right. I 100% agree, but I know that there are people listening who struggle with the idea on a regular good day, Robin, that they deserve pleasure, right? Especially
Mhm,
because, this podcast speaks to Black women.
mhm,
So if they struggle with feeling that they deserve pleasure on a regular day,
mhm,
how we gonna get them to believe us when we say that you deserve pleasure on a really hard, grieving, bad day?
mhm. It's the quiet time to self. For me, what helped me get there was I pulled tarot, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
tarot cards called the Hermit and
Mm-hmm.
surrender. And the Hermit is all about going up on the mountain, seeing the light shining from you, and understanding that you are your own guru.
Mm-hmm.
That quiet time to self. The second thing was the surrender card. It is a hangman. It is just like you surrender to trusting that you and your inner self, your higher knowing, is never going to lead you wrong and that
Mm.
you are always provided for. Surrender to the knowing of it. So, as I'm trying to do that and thinking about it, I realized I had not created space in my world to give me reprieve to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There was work. There was shit. I'm an entrepreneur. Where's the next? Who gonna
Mm-hmm.
be my next client? Because I need this and da, 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 and all
I
these
need that.
lack
I need them
mindset.
coins.
Mhm. All
Right.
this lack mindset ruminating through, making me feel like if my calendar is not packed, I'm not producing another program
Mm-hmm.
that I have to rework.
Yes, 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 yes.
So this is actually how the journal became my Body Bliss journal, second edition out now on Amazon and on my website. But the Body Bliss journal is literally the questions, the journal prompts that I asked myself to help me get to this place of you deserve pleasure. You are worthy of pleasure. You are more than worthy of pleasure. The affirmations in that journal are things that I said to myself daily because I knew I needed to reinforce and create new synapses in my brain so that my brain could start to help me see internally that this is why it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what saying affirmations is. It is helping your brain create a new pathway and how it sees you.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to start all of that in the journal. That's why I did the journal because I was like, oh, this is it. I'm, I'm
Mm.
loving myself more. I
Mm-hmm.
get it.
This episode of Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman is brought to you by Javery Integrative Wellness Services, where holistic healing meets mental wellness. At Javery Integrative Wellness, we understand that life's demands can take a toll on your mind, body, and your spirit. That's why we offer a range of therapeutic services designed to help you reconnect with yourself, reduce stress, and find balance. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, relationship issues, or simply looking to enhance your overall well being, the expert therapists at Javery Integrative Wellness are here to support you. We specialize in creating personalized integrative care plans that cater to your unique needs. Ready to take the first step towards a healthier, happier you? Visit www.javerywellness.com today and schedule your free 15-minute consultation with one of our compassionate therapists. It's time to invest in yourself and start your journey to wellness. That's www.javerywellness.com, your partner in holistic health and healing. Don't wait. Book your free consultation now. This episode of Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman is proudly sponsored by Organic Leaven, your go-to source for all natural, body-safe products that enhance your intimate experiences. At Organic Leaven, they believe that what you put on and in your body matters, which is why they offer a carefully curated selection of organic, eco-friendly products designed to bring pleasure without compromising your health. From luxurious lubricants and body oils to intimate toys and wellness products, Organic Leaven has everything you need to elevate your sensual self-care routine. Each product is crafted with the highest quality ingredients so you can indulge with confidence, knowing you're choosing the best for your body and the environment. As a special offer for our listeners, you can enjoy 10% off your purchase when you use the coupon code JaveryWellness at checkout. Visit www.javerywellness.com/organic Loven, that's Loven, today to explore their full range of products and discover how organic, body safe options can make a difference in your intimate life. That's www.javerywellness.com/organic Loven, spelled Loven. And don't forget to use the code JaveryWellness for 10% off your order. Take care of your body and let Organic Leaven take care of your pleasure.
So I hope that answers your question. And if it doesn't, please let me tell
No,
me.
it does. It does. And it's crazy that you bring up the journal because I was gonna bring that up later. Because originally, and this is still gonna happen, right? I was like, I bought the journal and I was like, I'm gonna do these 21 days, and then I'm gonna have you on and we're gonna talk about the 21 days. I have not done the 21 days. Because believe it or not, and this is probably a mind thing, but to create the sacred time to have self pleasure, my brain continues to tell me I don't have the time right now. And so there is a tug of war going on, but we are definitely going to have you back on because I'm going to do them 21 days, especially after the holiday season. So that is going to be a thing. Now, you talked about the Hermit and the Hangman, and I have had that show up in my tarot so many times, and I'm like, I don't want to spend any more time by myself, right? But those are two of the, I think, the hardest cards to get, right? Because even in grief, and I know you talked about like the grief of your mother, but then there's also the grief of self. Like, I thought that I was going to be this person, and now I'm another person. The grief of this fairy tale dream that you created for yourself for the past 2 decades, and now you don't like your job and you don't like your partner, and like the grief of what was. Um, you have to sit quietly, right? Which is the Hermit. You're gonna have to take some time to self, to be quiet, to hear your thoughts, to be able to get to the intuition and discernment that is the Hangman. But those are two of the scariest things, right? It's scary for me to sit by myself because I have stuff so much down. I don't want to go through that stuff. I don't want to go through those suitcases again, right? And then there is it's really hard for me to trust what I cannot see, right? Like no one teaches me how to understand intuition and that gut feeling and to trust my body that is going to give you the first inkling of answer before your mind ever does. How do
Mhm.
I trust my body that like more than my brain and the information I have been given my entire life?
Mhm.
Those are two really hard cards. And so what is the basic thing that you feel like someone listening can do to get into that place? Because in order to get through grief, sometimes you got to sit by yourself and sift through those feelings. And then you have to trust that everything is going to continue to do what it needs to do in the best interest of you. So what's
Mhm.
the basic thing someone can do?
Listen, I'm taking notes because I have comments. So that's why you see me like I was like, oh, I got to let me I'm taking notes. Um, Consent is always important. And so I'm gonna ask something of you
Mm-hmm.
that I feel my ancestors and my guides have encouraged me, and your guides have encouraged me to ask
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is is it okay if I provide you with a little bit of coaching, a little taste of what coaching with me is?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool, cool. So, when you were talking about going through the suitcases of grief,
Mm-hmm.
when you first mentioned it, you were like, I've stuffed so much down, and that I don't wanna look at that. And
Mm-hmm.
then the next thing was, I don't want to go through that, look through that again.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the first statement, stuffing it down kind of allows us to see it as I haven't even looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the second statement was, I have looked at it. I don't want to look at it again. So my question
Mm-hmm.
is, have you really looked at these suitcases? Because our first voice is the thing, is our highest self. When
Mm.
we double back and we like put something else on it, that means our mind, our ego jumped in and was like, yo, 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 you let something show.
Mm-hmm.
Let's come back or let's
Mm-hmm.
correct this. So my question is, yeah, is it again or is it you don't want to look at the suitcases because they've been stuffed?
Now, see, that wasn't even for me because I go through my stuff. I go see my therapist, I go to my coaches, right? So, but if I was talking from a client, right, or someone that's listening to this, they're aware that the baggage is there, right? And they dip their toe in it from time to time. But you get to a place where you just sick and tired of yourself. And the next step, the only next best step is to go through the stuff because you don't fit in this box anymore. You're very much aware of what could be on the other side, but there's that fear of that trusting that what's on the other side. I look at it like a river. And I've
Mhm,
talked about this in one of the episodes where it's like one person, the you that you are now is on one side of the river, and you have to go through the river to get to the other side. But it's like, I don't know her. I don't know what she do. I don't know what she like. Like you're asking me to drop everything that I've ever known and I've learned to be this person to experience this satisfaction despite lifing. But I don't know her. And the river is not always consistent, which is
mhm,
life, right? Like it could be
mhm,
choppy, it could have
mhm,
all types of crap in it, or it could be great. It could be crystal clear and smooth.
mhm,
But the problem is you can't stay where you are.
mhm,
So, what is the basic thing? And I know like the process that I take people through, but I want to
mhm,
hear from you someone that is like in the thick of I can help you through this grief,
mhm.
whatever that grief looks like. How do you get them to say I I have to, right? Like I have to open the bags. I have to clear my attic in
Mhm,
order to get to this best version that I
mhm.
know from my intuition is the next best version of me.
Okay. So I agree with you. That was for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for saying it.
You're
Thank-
welcome.
And then, secondly, this brings me to my second thing, which I think really answers this question of what do you do? Where do you start? And as much as I feel like people may have heard this, you start with your inner child,
Yes.
start there. And actually, I was just talking to a client about this earlier today about her inner child. Is that our inner child is happy, sad, erotic, whatever the inner child is going through, they're going through it and it's going to show up in our day to day.
Mhm.
And as the adults now, it is our turn to parent our inner child for what they need that they didn't get from the parents that we had.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think people might create a vision of what parenting looks like,
Mhm.
but this parenting is different. This parenting is what your inner child needed. Did your inner child need more playfulness from their parent or just their experiences? If that's the case, then that's where the pleasure is.
Mhm.
So we do things that bring excitement and fun into our life. We're feeding our pleasure senses and our inner child.
Mhm.
And the more you parent your inner child, the more your inner child and you become one and you start walking in fullness of authenticity.
Mhm.
And that shifts your whole outlook, your whole environment. Everything shifts.
I like it. I like it. And let's talk a little bit about grieving the versions of
Mm,
ourselves. That that is really uncomfortable. I can say that for myself. Like, and I've done it. I think becoming a business owner probably like sped me through the process. Yes. I have gone through many lives in the past 4 years. And I mean, I came out on the other end better, right? But and it helps me make decisions from a place of I'm making this decision because it feels good. It feels good to me. I had to go through a lot of shit to get there. But how do we start the process of saying goodbye to the old when it is so comfortable? And I think for me, like when I'm working with someone, I can take them through it, but sometimes it's hard for me to remember, right? Because when you get to this place of, oh, this feels good. Like my life is legit orgasmic. Like it don't matter if it's a good day or a bad day. Something is going to be orgasmic about the day, right? And it gets a little hard to tell people how you got there the further that you get away from it. So for someone that's like, but I'm holding on to her. Like I still want to be her. I know her. She's very comfortable. I love her. And I don't know this other person that's on the other side of the river. How do we start that process of pleasure and grieving ourself, death
mm.
of ourself?
Ah, two things come to mind again. The first one is okay. Growing up, did you ever have growing pains?
Probably, yeah. I think mines were probably more attitude-ish than they
Okay.
were like some people I know ache in the body and things of that nature. I
Yeah.
think mine was just full blown. The attitude was just all over the place.
Your face was perfect with it.
Yeah, it was just like, who are you? You're pissing me off. I don't know why, but you about to get this attitude.
Oh my gosh. So that shows that things were changing in your hormonal balance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So your body was changing and that had like some uncomfortable moments.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same with the old version that we are.
Mm-hmm.
To be more physical, when I was growing up, I had pains in my joints
Mm-hmm.
because I shot up I was super tall when I was whatever. So I shot up and I saw the bone sticking out of my my knee, yes, because my skin wasn't going fast enough with
Right.
my bones.
Oh
We're
wow.
going to the doctor to be like, yo, what do we do about this? Like, da 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 da. I don't want this to happen to my body. I like my body the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But my internal body, our internal being, is saying, We need more space.
Mm-hmm.
This body doesn't fit who we are growing into anymore.
Yes.
And so that's the part of grieving that I think if we this is why I say for science, because that's science. That helps me
Mm-hmm.
understand, oh, oh, my spiritual body has outgrown this physical body
Mm-hmm.
and this spiritual person that I was. And it's okay to let them go because I'm not actually comfortable in that anymore.
Right.
I thought I was, but really everything in my being is saying, we're not comfortable here anymore.
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
recognizing that actually I'm not comfortable. I thought I was
Mhm.
comfortable, but really I'm not comfortable.
Yeah. And I tell my clients all the time, Robert, I said, look, I can't make you do anything. You could try to stay in this box if you want to, but your life is going to be very uncomfortable. You're going to be very unhappy and frustrated and irritable because you don't fit them shoes no more. They don't
Right.
fit.
Right.
Your toes is curling and everything. You're making yourself uncomfortable, and that's fine. But eventually you're gonna be like, I can't do this anymore. And you have no choice. I call it the box, right? Like you have to go to a bigger box so that if
Mm-hmm.
it's, and eventually you're gonna outgrow that one. And so just get comfortable with the growth, get comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
being uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
about who the next version of
Mm-hmm.
you is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And
And
I
that
think, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's self-love. That's the depth of self-love because it means that I love myself enough to stop
Mm.
me from staying in an uncomfortableness so long to the place where I feel like I have to now. No,
Ooh,
I love
yeah.
myself enough to stop me from having all of that heartache, all that pain, because I recognize I ain't comfortable.
Yeah.
So get comfortable now versus tossing and turning and then you have a whole night without sleep and you wake up in the next morning grumpy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And y'all, this goes back to the cards that Robin was talking about, the Hermit and the Hangman, because for me, I have found my thing. I'm a Libra. So I can very much feel in my body and in my environment when the scales are not like when my equilibrium is off, I'm like, okay, something, it doesn't feel right. Something is off. Oh, like I got hearts. But I can feel it. It's not a one day I just trusted it, right? Which we have the Hangman. One day I just trusted that, okay, I recognize that my sun sign is a Libra and I need to be balanced. When I feel unbalanced, when the world under my feet feels like it's tilting, it literally feels like my world is tilting. Something has to change. Either I need to add something, I need to get rid of something, but something has to change. And I can feel when everything goes back right. But that's for me. And so that's why you need to sit with self, hermit mode, to get the intuition to know what is your thing, to know when you are growing and it's time to go to the next box. Like
Mm,
neither one of us can sit here and tell you what your thing is. You have to
mhm,
sit with that.
mhm,
So I wanted to make sure that I put that in there because I'm sure some people are gonna be like, well, how do I know if I'm growing? Know thyself and you'll know when you're not yourself.
mhm, mhm. Mm,
Right?
mm.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, you better preach.
So here's my next question. With the state of the world, right now we are recording November 30th. The state of the world for Black women, we's tired, but we're also grieving, right? There is a huge collective grief, which has brought intentional rest. What is your love note to Black women listening to this about how to get through whatever is getting ready to come and still finding the pleasure through all of the unknown that's getting ready to come, as well as feeling let down right now by everything that has happened?
Mhm, mm.
I
So
got the
it was
fire today, Robin. I got the fire.
I love it. I love it. It goes back to the Hermit card.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about your sun sign being Libra. Shout out to Libras. My
Yay.
my sun sign is Scorpio, and my
Oh.
rising is Libra, and my moon is Libra. Yeah,
Ooh.
so I got a lot of Libra. Don't hate, don't sleep on the Scorpio though. Shh. I am in
Right.
Phoenix mode a lot of the times, but
Mm-hmm.
I love Libras. Anyways, um, but what you mentioned was in your hermit mode, understanding more about your astrological self, which is
Mm-hmm.
sun sign Libra, right?
Mm-hmm.
And seeing how that affects how you engage with the world
Mm-hmm.
was powerful. And I think one of the things that a lot of us don't do as often as we could is actually examine ourselves in multiple ways of being.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People are like, oh, astrology's not a thing, like da 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 da. Like, not all everybody who is the sun sign Scorpio is going to act this way. That's right, because the chart is more than your sun sign.
Right.
It's a
Right.
where was Jupiter, where was Venus, where was
Mm-hmm.
that with the stars in connection to when you were born? And then actually, how have you progressed? What progress sign are you
Mm-hmm.
in? It's a whole situation. So it's not just that small, minute lens. And the Hermit cards allows you to take time to really sit with what it is that I need. How can I still find pleasure in all of the stuff that's happening? Oh, as a Scorpio, I am all about death and rebirth. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I have to embrace my darkness and
Mm-hmm.
I need to be able to be comfortable with my darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not comfortable with my darkness, that is me pushing away and not loving myself fully.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does my darkness look like internally and outside in the world? And how do I allow that to bring me peace? That was a real deep, legit question I asked myself November 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, I am upset. And I am
Mm-hmm.
also eerily okay with this, only
Mm-hmm.
because this is a part of my Scorpioness. There's a lot of people that are going to die in their emotions, in their
Mm-hmm.
state, and then be reborn as a greater version of themselves because they see that they have to take a stand and move forward. This is my fucking
Mm-hmm.
season. Because I am the
Mm-hmm.
person who supports those in doing that.
Hello? Listen, Robin, when everybody started talking about rest, I said, it is my time. I I am here. Everyone was talking about, I don't know how to rest. I have been screaming Black women rest, not just taking naps, pleasure and self-care into I feel like the void for the past 3 years because people are like, oh, that's a luxury. I don't want to go on this retreat and I don't want to talk about resting. I don't know how
Mhm.
to do that now. Everyone's like, oh, I'm resting. I'm like, I'm here, baby. I made it. This is my time. I've been telling y'all, follow me because this is the work. And I think you feel the same way. Like, we were doing this, like, we were figuring out what it means to rest and what it, when you were talking about being productive, I tell people all the time, like, I really had to sit with my value and my worth is not always in being productive. I want to go play, like I want to eat good things and I want to feel like I want to change my environment because you know me being a Libra, aesthetically pleasing. Like I am okay with you calling me bougie. It does
Mhm.
not bother me because that is what gets me through the day to day is not just nice things, but nice experiences, good food, like things that make my toes curl on a day to day basis. And so to get to this place and still see people saying, I don't know how to rest. It reminds me again, all those versions of ourselves that had to go. I'm right where I need to be, right? Like I have rested, I have played, I have self cared. I am no longer at the foundation, right? Like we're
Mhm.
not in the foundational realm. We're thriving. And I have an episode where I talk about the difference between survival, living, and thriving. Like we are able to thrive in our self care. We are able to thrive in our rest because we've done the work. But some of you that are listening have no idea what that feels like. And you're trying to jump from, okay, pleasure. Well, I just want to play with myself and I want to have sex and stuff like that. But I had to start from the bare minimum of my pleasure comes from I'm wiping everything off of my calendar that does not have to be done. And I'm going to spend a lot of time with myself sitting outside under the sun. That was my basic pleasure. Right. And now that I have excelled in that, now I can have pleasure in self pleasure or pleasure with my partner, or like now I can elevate what it feels like to have, some electro play, or like let's play
Yes.
around with some, some other things, because I have tapped out the foundational part of my senses. But you can't jump from 0 to 100 when it comes to pleasure, especially in this time of deep grief. Like, you gotta take your baby steps. So, Robin, what are 3 baby steps?
Mm. Somatic work. This is about to be it. Breath,
Mm-hmm.
breath work, breath work, breath work. And why I said somatic work before I said breath work is because somatics is understanding that your brain is controlling every muscle in your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have that first brain, your lizard brain,
Mm-hmm.
that when trauma comes, when stress comes, anything that resembles stress, that lizard brain jumps in and your body tenses
Mm-hmm.
in different types of ways. We can go into them, we don't have to, but in different types of ways, it tenses. Somatics is understanding that because that is the body's natural reflex, that when you continue to have low levels of stress in your body is naturally tensing and stays in that tensed
Mm-hmm.
position. Breath work is one of the keys to help you feel back into the places that you didn't realize were so tense,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can tell your brain and the thing that your body automatically does, you can actually take back hold of it and say, hey, you could release.
Mm-hmm.
Because our breath brought us into the moment and the understanding of our body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
So breath work is so important. Belly breaths. Start with four square breathing,
Mm-hmm.
triangle breathe, whatever breath thing you want. Just start breathing.
Yeah.
Focus on it. See it. Set a timer for 30 seconds and then to 60 seconds and then whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And know that as you're doing that, you're actually meditating. And that's
Mm.
the second one, is meditation.
Yeah.
That's back to the Herman card.
Mm-hmm.
That's back to taking time to yourself to feel your body. So breath helps us come into our present moment. Meditation helps us feel into what the body is feeling in that present moment. They walk hand in hand. So you got two for the price of one.
Mm-hmm. Right?
And then the third would be hug yourself. Sexy things, hug
Ooh.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We be out here looking for extrinsic validation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just need touch. If touch don't have to be from another person.
Exactly.
Your body does not know the difference. For science, your body doesn't know the difference between you touching you or somebody else touching you. So if
Mm-hmm.
you give yourself a hug, your body just receives it as, ooh, I can release this feel good hormone now. Ooh, I feel
Mm.
that in my body. Thank you. I just needed to be touched. Self
I
hug,
like that.
8 seconds.
like that. Love that third one, because I think a lot of people, and I hear it from my clients too, were like, I mean, yeah, I could do that, but I need a little bit more. Well, I mean, how often do you love on yourself to know that you need more, right? Like, how often are you? Oh, so you hugged yourself like 2 years ago? Great. Let's try it every day for 90 days and like come back and tell me this is your prescription. Tell me how it goes, right? Like they do the least and then say, "Oh, that doesn't work for me." But we're taught to get our pleasure from outside of us. And I thoroughly believe, and people hear me say this all the time, we are cake. Cake is great by itself. You don't have to have all the extra stuff, but everything external can add to the cake. But like you're great by yourself. You're absolutely great by yourself.
Yes. I just hugged myself. I had to hug
You
myself. I
did. You
did. I was
did.
just like, yes. Yeah.
You did. Because I mean, we are what we have, right? Like people are flawed. So they're going to hurt your feelings. They're going to let you down. They're not going to meet your expectation. And that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a fact. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, you have yourself. Ooh, Robin, this was really, really good. Like, I feel the motivation to make sure I do this 21-day book so that I can bring you back so that we can have a conversation. And I think January is the perfect time coming off of all the giving, right? During the holidays, a lots of giving and lots of time with other people and pouring into people. And so being able to pour back into self. And I will for sure be putting the book in the show notes because I feel like y'all should do it too so that we can all know what we're talking about as a collective conversation. But I appreciate you so much. Where do you want people to come stalk you like I stalk you, Rob?
Well, two things. Two things is I just keep feeling this like because in around February is when I do the 21 days of pleasure again.
Really?
Yeah. And so like the first time it was 21 days of pleasure, the second time it was 21 days to liberation using pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And I always go through it again because it's not a
Mm-hmm.
one-time thing. Like every time I go
Mm-hmm.
through those same questions, I unveil something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's being okay with going back through the baggage and knowing that
Mm-hmm.
there is something still that you can learn and
Yes.
that can help elevate you. So, anyways, I do it again. And I would love to talk about us doing it together in sisterhood and just like maybe
Oh,
recording it with one another and then sharing that. I have no idea what it looks like. We can co-create it. But
yeah.
that came up because it just feels good. So, if it feels good for you, think
Oh
about
my
it, talk about
gosh.
it.
I would love to.
That way we got accountability.
Yes, I was just thinking about that. I was like, there is no way I'm gonna be with the author of the journal and be like, no, I didn't do my 21 day. Like, no, like if there's anything, I'm not gonna show up and not do it.
Listen,
But
you
I think that would be great, right? And then come back with the conversation of like what comes up for my first time and it being a repeat for you. Cause what I'm thinking, like I'm thinking about things like I feel like I would want to do this as a group too, right? To be able to gift your books, your journals, and take women through this, right? Because I think when they look at it, they're like, oh, okay, I'm just masturbating. But it's like, it's so much more than that.
Mhm,
It's taking time for yourself. It's the self-love. It's the
mhm,
creating the environment, right? Like we spend so much time creating this experience for other people. I'm like, well, why don't you do that for
mhm,
yourself, right? And I think that's a beautiful way to bring someone in and also have them dig deeper with the questions that you have. So, yeah, it's about to be a whole thing. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because yes, I want that too. I want that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And
where
and in the second
yes.
version of it, it lays out even more like really supports a preparation time
Mhm.
where you start the 21 days and then also describes understanding the difference between masturbation and self-pleasure.
Mm.
So that you understand the journal is not about I'm trying to get off and have an orgasm
Right.
daily.
Right.
What is actually self-pleasure and
Mm.
allowing you to uncover what that means for you. And so, yeah, so the second version, I was so grateful to have redone it in that way. So yes, let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do.
Yes.
Maybe we get like a little group together that
That
they
would
do
be
it with us,
great.
and we send out the
Yes.
journals to them, and
I would love oh gosh. Look at the universe working for me. I would love that. So where would you like people to come follow you? I know you sprinkle your love, you sprinkle your love around, but where are you most of the time?
Um, so when is this gonna air? So I can see
This
it a
is
little
gonna
bit.
air in January.
Okay, great, 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 great. So I'm gonna share my new TikTok handle.
Oh, you got a new TikTok?
I- because a part of my grief work has really been resting on my chest around fibroids and
Mm,
understanding. I've battled with them 3 times, and this past third time is the last time, and I refuse to allow myself to get back into that place where they ravaged my womb.
mhm,
So but that's a grief. That was a big grief that I was carrying and I still carry in our process, right?
mhm.
So my new page is Hey Sexy Things
Okay.
on TikTok, one word, no dots or anything. And so go there for fibroid, grief, tantra,
Mm,
environmental stuff. I'm going to talk about food and because for science, I'm an environmental toxicologist. And so
mm,
endocrine disruptors, estrogen, progesterone, uh, bisphenols, and biphenyls, all of those things play an impact in our womb
mhm,
and our chakras and our energy. And it is a joy of mine.
mhm.
And so I wanted to edify and pour into that joy. So that's one of my pages. And then there is Robin.Denise at TikTok. And that is, I don't know what that's going to transition to, but it'll still be there. And they'll still be fun. I'll probably be doing a lot more dancing and shaking my ass on that one. Uh, for science and for energy release and grief, all of that.
Mhm.
And then we have YouTube. I do something called Conversations with Robin on YouTube.
Oh.
And my YouTube handle is at Robin.Denise. I love that channel. I love it because it is literally raw conversations, like what we've done here today,
Mhm.
and even a little bit more raw, where I'm really
Mm.
just being like, listen, your ancestors just said this, and what you gonna do about that? You're always gonna get the authentic me. Um, so that's that. Oh, and then Instagram is dying. And
Mhm.
so I'm not even sure if I will remain on Instagram, but if I am still on there at Instagram, it is at Robin underscore Denise underscore. And then lastly is my website, robindenise.com. I got everything on there. My events, I do something called Yoni Hours twice a week, twice a
Mm.
month, which is free. It's community building. It is to tap in, check in, especially how as our economy continues to move the way it is,
Mhm.
the political landscape is changing so vastly.
Mhm.
And so, what does that mean for our grief, our yoni, our womb, our spirituality, all of it? That's the space I want to hold for Yoni Hours.
Mm.
So, you can register for that on my website, robindenise.com. And then, like, consultations, I do coaching, grief and pleasure coaching, spiritual coaching, all of that.
Yeah, I hear y'all. She can sprinkle you with a little love in any way that you might need it, okay? Like, get at her. And your TikTok page is amazing. I did see you twerking and shaking the grief out. I did. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So you are definitely a good time. I appreciate you. This was a really good conversation. I am excited about whatever we're able to create going into this year of unknown and understanding that there's the things that we can control and the things that we can't, and we can always control what is within us. So y'all be on the lookout. Thank you so much, Robin.
You are welcome. This is great.
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you this was going to be a good episode? Robin is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to grief. And as you heard, it's not just from the certifications and the things that she does, but she walked into into this work from a place of experience, being able to transmute her own grief. So I absolutely appreciate her so much for sharing the information. Make sure you follow her. Her information is in the show notes. Let her know that you listened to her episode, and take heed to all of the gems that she dropped to help you get through your day to day. Because again, life is going to life. I cannot sit here and say that you will be happy every day and that you will get everything that you want and things will go in the direction that you want them to go. But what I can tell you is it gets better. What goes up must come down. So it's going to get better. Before we go, if there's anyone that you would love to share this episode with, please do not forget to join our newsletter and come play with me over on YouTube, okay? I love you so much, and don't forget that pleasure is your birthright. You are so very much deserving of satisfaction in your life. I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.